All righty, good to go here. Perfect. Welcome to the Standard Podcast, where we raise the bar, rebuild the culture, and call out the lies no one else will. This isn't motivation, this is a movement. I'm Thomas Rowe, joined by my host, Aaron Charles, and today we're sitting down with Kaylon Peoples, also known as KJ, former all-conference wide receiver turned financial strategist. After years competing at the highest level in athletics, KJ now works with global financial impact, coaching athletes, entrepreneurs, and business leaders on how to protect, grow, and transfer wealth. His mission is simple: turning income into impact. From LLCs and S Corps to NIL deals and legacy planning, KJ brings the same discipline, consistency, and competitive mindset from the field to the financial game, helping people build wealth strategies that last beyond the playing days. We're diving into the truth behind what it really takes to build identity, discipline, and legacy in sports and in life. Let's get into it. KJ, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to tag team you. We got about 4 or 5 different blocks of questions, and I'm just going to start off. But first of all, KJ, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to join us. We really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you guys for having me.
Of course. So you went from all-conference wide receiver to financial strategist. What does raising the standard mean to you, especially in the work you're doing now with athletes and entrepreneurs?
Raising the standard to me is just doing something that you personally haven't done before, or maybe your family hasn't done before, right? And it's just taking things to the next level. And I think that's really important because I think sometimes in life we can get stagnant. We can kind of just get comfortable to where we are. And to me, raising the standard is just pushing yourself to the next level, whatever that is, and just pushing your limitations and getting what you want out of your life. So that's why I would say raising the standard is to me.
Perfect. Totally get that. So what do you think is I hate to use the word lie. What do you think is the biggest lie or misconception about our culture or the system that sold athletes about money, wealth, and financial security?
Biggest lie or myth. I think the biggest lie or myth in terms of that is when people consider richness, right? It's the amount of money that you have, which is not true, because when it comes to sports and athletes specifically, you come into a lot of money really fast, but it can be right out the door just as quick as you get it.
Right.
And I think to combat that, it's not the amount of money, it's how you use it, right? And it's the systems and structures and things you have in place to capitalize on that. So I would say it's not the amount of money, it's how you're using it and leveraging it.
That's fair. That is absolutely fair. How do you feel that misconception found its way into your journey or in the athletes or professionals that you work with? And what truth do you think needs to replace it?
I think when it comes to that, I think it's really a mindset thing. And when I come across athletes who get some NIL or maybe, they make it to the pros, they come from a mindset of lack because they've never received that amount or had that type of money like in their family. So like to them, they're like, man, like I have this money, and their mindset is to spend, have a consumer's mindset. So I think to replace that, which is kind of what I do now, is just teaching those guys financial literacy so they understand and they're able to shift their mindset from consumer to longevity. And I think that's really important just in the current state that we are with athletes and money, just being a trusted source in that space and kind of guiding those guys in the right direction too.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Erin, and she's going to take a couple shots at you. Go for it, Erin.
Yeah, I'm the tough one here. I got the hard questions, KJ.
Bring it on.
Get it ready. Thomas has the softballs. I have the baseballs, the hardballs, the curveballs. So I would love for you to tell our audience, when we talk about just your journey, Who are you though, beyond the financial, strategies and business planning for athletes and being a former athlete? Like, who is KJ?
That is a good question. And I kind of want to spend some time here because I feel like it's really important. So before that, right, I kind of identified myself as an athlete, right? And it's something that all athletes deal with whenever they're done playing. They go through this identity crisis, like, who am I? What do I do? Because for so long, it was just like, man, like, you're an athlete, this is what you do. Like, you perform. And for me, when I got done, I struggled with that. And I had to kind of do some self-development and find out what I wanted to do, which led me to where I am now. But who am I now? Who do I identify as? I identify myself as someone who's a leader and someone who just has a servant mindset. And I want to help people get to where they want to get to. So I would say my identity now that I kind of look at myself as, someone who's servant-minded and someone who wants to help others get to where they want to get to.
I love that. And you can feel that. And hopefully that comes through you guys as listeners in the podcast, as KJ really does have a heart to serve. How would you describe or integrate character, integrity, and discipline into your life now, maybe as an athlete previously? But what do those words mean to you?
Say those 3 words again.
Character, integrity, and discipline.
Okay. So character is who you are. It's controlled by your actions. Integrity is doing the right thing, even, when nobody's looking. And I think when it comes to that and developing that and building that, you have to be able to lead yourself and keep promises to yourself. Right. So, for example, like if I have a goal for myself, like I'm going to work out 5 days a week, right, I need to do that. Right. Because if I don't, and I do like maybe 3 or 4 days, now subconsciously, I'm basically telling myself I can't hold up my end of the bargain. Right.
Yeah.
And now your character is, you're having this battle and this shift between like who I said I want to be and like who I actually am. And I think you have to be real with yourself and look in the mirror before you can make changes or improve in any of those categories.
God, I love that. You got to look at yourself in the mirror. That's so well said. So when it comes to building a legacy, what does legacy beyond performance mean to you, especially when it comes to protecting and transferring wealth with the clients you now work with?
Yeah. When it comes to that, legacy is whenever, your day comes and, how are people going to talk about you? How are people going to remember you? Like, are you going to cement yourself, in your family's, legacy, or are you going to be, somebody in 1 or 2 generations that honestly gets forgotten? Right. And when it comes to wealth, it's not so much the money that's getting transferred. Right. Me being in a space, I'm really big on education. So something I like to use is called cash with a K. So it's knowledge, attitude, standards, and habits. Those are the things that you want to be able to transfer to the next generation, because honestly, like, you can transfer them all this money, but if their mindset is not right, it's going to dissipate. It's going to be gone. So you really didn't create a generational impact. Like, yeah, you left some money behind, but what happened to that money, in maybe 1 or 2 generations, right? It's gone because you didn't transfer the mindset and the habits that needed to be in place to stretch that out, longer.
God, that is probably some of the best advice I've heard as far as when it comes to, I think, wealth planning and what does legacy really mean to somebody. So that is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. What is one truth you wish every young athlete, maybe entrepreneur or professional, understood about money that most people aren't either talking about or they don't hear?
I would say money is a tool. So, some people have this view of money as like evil, right? Or it's like bad, or it's like whatever, right? And the truth of the matter is, money is just a tool and it's going to enhance who you already are, right? So if you're a person who does bad things and you get a lot of money, you're going to do bad things with that money. If you're a person who's giving and caring and you get a lot of money, you're more than likely going to give it out, right? And you're going to create impact, in your communities. And I feel like that's really important because so many people view money as a lot of different things other than what it truly is. And it's just a tool to amplify who you are as a person and impact you want to make.
I love that. That's probably one of the best advices. It's a tool. It's not a reflection of your worth, which I think people need to hear that. Okay, Thomas, it's your turn again.
Right on, KJ. So, I think as athletes, when we go on to play at the next level, that being college, we always have that dream of playing at the next level, meaning the NFL. If you could sit down with yourself in high school or in college when you knew that NFL was not part of the plan, what financial advice would you give that younger version of yourself in high school or college?
What financial advice would I give them?
Right.
I would say start educating yourself on the ways money can work for you.
Got it.
Because at that stage of your life, you're in your, early 20s, late 20s, depending on, everybody's situation is different, but you're young enough to where if you understand how money works and how to use it properly, you can still end up getting the same results that you wanted from pro sports, right? Like some people, they have this vision of getting there, and it could be because of the love of the game, right? But they want to be able to take care of the family, right? Like that's what ultimately you want to get to that level for, is to be able to, maybe retire your parents, right? Or do all these things. And I think most people up until that point, they only see professional sports as that avenue. Right. So I would challenge myself or that person in that scenario, start exploring other things and just get out, right? I know some athletes, they have trouble, hanging out on campus and get into like campus activities with the student life, right? Because they're like, oh, I'm an athlete. Like I just go to class, I go study, I go recover, and that's it, right? Like, so I would encourage them to like go to campus events, get around the student life, and just kind of explore other things out there that's outside of sports that you can enjoy. And that's probably what I would say.
Nice. So what about athletes who are in their earning years right now, whether it's NIL money, pro contracts, or an entrepreneurial income? What do athletes or young professionals need to understand about building wealth?
If you start now and you do it properly, you don't have to worry about it the rest of your life, right? So there's strategies and things in place to where, like, for example, NIL, these kids are, young, right? There's strategies we can use to maybe take like 1 year of that NIL, right? Or whatever, how many years they get, just like 1 year, put it away into something to where they don't have to worry about it, right? It's going to grow, it's protected, all those things. And I think it's just finding the strategies that make sense, right? And being okay with consistent over like huge returns. Right. Not saying huge returns are bad, but if you chase those, now you run into this issue of like you can lose a lot of money, taxes get involved, right? So that's what I would say. Just it's all strategy, and you got to get with the right people who have good intentions.
Oh yeah. And for the athletes who are transitioning out of their playing careers, what's the one thing they need to do to protect what they've earned and set themselves up for long-term success?
I think it's the same thing, right? So it kind of goes side and side. So like when you're in your earning years, you need to be putting money away that you're not using to, spend on the house or whatever. You need to use that money to grab maybe some assets, right? That can cash flow whenever you get done. Because when you get done, like you're going to have this transition phase, right? Like it's going to happen. Everybody goes through it, right? And in that meantime, you're not necessarily generating income. You're trying to figure out like, what am I going to do? Am I going to work? Whatever, right? And you need to have things that can produce income for you. And I think a lot of times people don't think that far in the future. I mean, you kind of have to. Most people are like, I'm in the league, like maybe I got like a 3-year contract, or I got an NIL deal, it's a 3-year contract. They're like, okay, I got money coming in the next 3 years, but what about that 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th year? Because you don't know if that contract's going to come back.
Right.
And I think you have to think of it from a mindset of, okay, if I only have this contract, what would I do with it to make it last maybe the next 15, 20 years? What do I need to do with it? Right. And I think it just goes back to living, below your means. Those guys get money and, not saying you can't buy nice things, but that doesn't need to be the priority.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to turn it over to the rapid fire. Aaron, take it away.
Oh, man.
Oh, it's rapid fire time. My favorite part of this show. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say like a couple words and I want you to finish my sentence. Okay, KJ?
Okay.
So discipline equals
Consistency.
leadership equals
Personal development.
faith equals
Believing in yourself.
legacy equals
Cash. With a K.
With the K, I'm guessing.
Yeah, cash with a K.
What's one thing you'd never compromise on?
My integrity, doing the right thing by people.
I love that. And if you could put up one message to the next generation of athletes on a billboard, what would it be?
One message for the next generation of athletes. What would it be? Be who you say you are.
That is awesome.
Nice. That's kick-ass. KJ, before we wrap up, is there something that we didn't touch on today that you feel athletes, entrepreneurs, or professionals need to hear about building and protecting wealth? Tell us what cash is again. I did. When you said it the first time, I had to grab my pen. Cash is knowledge,
attitude,
standards,
and habits.
Cash with a K. That's badass. That's badass. But I didn't need to coach you on that one. I just love that. Is there something else you'd like to add?
I think one thing I want to say, just in terms of, being successful, you have to identify as the person who's going to get the end results that you want, right? So when it comes to building wealth, when it comes to all those things, you need to be that type of person mentally before you start taking actions, right? So in your mind, you need to believe and affirm that you are the type of person who's going to build generational wealth or accumulate money or assets or whatever, right? And then what happens is whenever you identify as that, your actions follow psychologically, your actions will follow that.
Sure.
And I think that's really important because most people are like, if I just do, I will have, but your mentality is not of that, right? So then you go in this cycle of like, you ride these highs and then you go back down to, essentially your identity. And in sports, they always say, you don't rise to the level of the game or your competition, you fall to your training, right? And I think in the game of life and money, you don't rise to your goal, right? You fall to your identity. And I think the more you raise who you are as a person and who you identify as, that you just keep raising the bottom floor, right? So that's one thing I wanted to just throw out there, a little nugget for anybody listening.
Well, that's perfect. Team, it's easy to get seduced by the glamour and the glitz of the lights of professional sports or for just NIL contracts and so forth. I cannot stress enough that Aaron and I have been working with so many different athletes, coaches, and families. KJ touched on it earlier, where the money is not always going to be there. You've got to plan for the future. That being said, KJ, where can people reach out to you to just get some advice, connect with you on how to estate plan and how to plan their financial future?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram. It's going to be KJ Peoples Finance. Same on TikTok as well. I post, not even just financial literacy stuff. I post personal development stuff, leadership stuff too. But they can reach me on those two accounts specifically. And then my email address, send something, it's just my name, Kaylon, peoples.gfi@gmail.com.
That's badass. Awesome. KJ, you've been an absolute pleasure. Aaron, why don't you take us home?
Okay, I will take us home. Thank you, KJ, for taking the time, sharing your story, and I think your work in the financial sector and really being in service to people to help them build that legacy wealth and to understand how to really use their cash. I love that. K for knowledge, A for attitude, S for standards, and H for habits. I think that's awesome. I would love for you guys, if this conversation challenged you, inspired you, or made you think differently, I have two asks of you. One, share this episode with somebody who needs to hear it, an athlete navigating NIL deals, an entrepreneur building their business, a professional who's earning well but doesn't have systems in place to protect that. And two, please go connect with KJ on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on TikTok, email him. If you're ready to turn income into impact and build a financial playbook that lasts, KJ is your guy. And if you're an athlete, parent, or coach ready to raise the standard, check out blueprintbluechip.com. We help athletes build identity, discipline, and legacy that goes beyond the game. And if this episode resonated with you, take 30 seconds, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. It helps us reach more athletes, parents, and leaders who need this message. This is the Standard Podcast, and this movement only grows when we raise the standard together. Talent fades, but truth endures. Raise the bar, rebuild the culture, become the standard. Until next time.
Awesome.